Mark Rogers TV with a pulse on Big Ten Media Days in Chicago. We talked earlier about Wisconsin head coach Gary Andersen's perspective on his team's schedule, which looks a little light in the Big Ten with no Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, or Penn State. Now let's focus on his comments regarding personnel and specifically at quarterback and wide receiver. Wisconsin, a perennial Big Ten power, contender in the conference, favorite going into this season in the Western Division, brings back the least personnel on the depth chart, first team. 9 starters. That's the least number in the entire conference out of 14 teams coming back from 2013. Let's talk about wide receiver, because if there's any position on this team that has lacked and disappointed this fan base and been maybe the difference between Wisconsin being a top 15 program and being a truly elite, knocking on that door, it's been a wide receiver. Jared Abbrederis. He seemed like he was at Wisconsin forever. He caught 78 passes last year, and for the last several years, myself included, have called for anybody to step up as a number 2 threat, let alone a number 3 threat. In this day's football, you need like 4 wide receivers who are going to threaten the defense and scare them just a little bit. At least a number 2 complimentary guy. And Wisconsin's not had that. They've had Abbrederis and nobody else. Abbrederis has finally gone to the NFL's Green Bay Packers. Let's see what Wisconsin has coming back, and it's really not proven. There is no production here, basically zero coming back. So somebody needs to fill the void of Abbrederis, show that they can separate, that they can catch the football, that they can be dependable. And oh yeah, they face an LSU secondary in game 1. So they don't get a chance to ease into the season this season at Wisconsin. It's LSU, game 1, semi on the road at Reliant Stadium in Houston. Okay, at wide receiver, you've got Kenzel Doe. He's shown that he can make the plays on the big stage, not just at wide receiver, but mostly in the return game. Had the big kickoff return that gave the Badgers some life in the Capital One Bowl against South Carolina, brought them back to 27-24 before they faltered in the last 5 minutes. Kenzel Doe had a big spring, according to Gary Andersen, showed signs of being able to take over that number 1 spot at wide receiver. Caught just 7 passes last season for 57 yards. Then you've got Alex Erickson, who caught just 9 passes last year, but 4 in the regular season finale against Penn State for 64 yards. Jazz Peavy's another guy that Gary Andersen mentioned. Peavy did not see the field last year. He was a 3-star recruit in 2013, so that's pretty standard for Wisconsin. 3-star recruit at wide receiver, ran a 4.5, and that really put him on the map in the recruiting wars, where he was coming out of a high school where they didn't throw the football. Especially as a junior in high school, hardly caught the football because they just didn't put it up. As a senior, caught passes for about 400 yards, and that made him a nominal recruit at that point. And again, ranked by the major services at the time of his class of 2013 between 150 and 200 in the wide receiver rankings. Jazz Peavy. Then you got Robert Wheelwright, who caught 2 passes last season. Not a whole lot there. Jordan Frederick, 10 catches, 106. Then you got Reggie Love. This is a guy that I expected to be a major contributor. Again, a guy that could threaten the defense with at least straight line speed on the opposite side of Abbrederis last season. And the season before, he contributed to a certain extent. Last season in camp, he had a pretty bad bone bruise. They decided to redshirt Reggie Love. 6'3", 216, coming off that redshirt season. He's healthy. He's ready to go. Reggie Love could be that missing ingredient in the passing offense. At tight end, they're in pretty good shape with Sam Andersen, a guy that can split the seam and get downfield and make some plays. He's dependable, not outstanding. It's not Jimmy Graham. Sam Andersen, though, is dependable for the quarterback and a bit of a security blanket, especially with Abbrederis off to the NFL. All right, let's talk quarterback now, because ever since Gary Andersen took over in Madison, it's been interesting to see what he's used to, what he loves, what he's accustomed to at quarterback, and what he really wants and desires to see out of that position versus what he's had on the roster. He's had Kurt Phillips. He's had Joel Stave, pocket passers, guys that don't move. He's got his guy Tanner McEvoy, who's got basically no experience starting. This is a guy, Gary Andersen, who coached Chucky Keaton at Utah State, one of the true dual threats at quarterback in all of college football. Stave had a shoulder injury in the Capital One. Phillips came in, faltered through a big pick in the end zone. That was pretty much the end of his career. Joel Stave, though, splitting reps right now, despite, again, winning a lot of big football games at Wisconsin, starting the entire season last year, starting the meaningful early games in 2012 before he got hurt. 62% last season, 22 touchdowns, 13 picks, and some of those interceptions at inopportune times for Joel Stave. And again, he doesn't bring that element. Tanner McEvoy, okay, he's a redshirt junior. Gary Andersen was asked about him at the podium and said, hey, this kid is elusive. He's got speed. He's smart as a runner. He knows when to run. As a quarterback, we shall see. He played safety last season. He started 3 games at safety for Wisconsin. That blows me away that at a Power 5 conference program, not even Power 5, let's up it a notch or two. At an elite program or close to a top 15 program, kid plays safety 1 year, comes in as a quarterback. They need a safety. They look to him because he can run and he's smart. He adapts to safety, and I'm sure he played it in high school, but still, in the Big Ten, played safety, started 3 games, played 11 games, made 27 tackles, picked off a pass, made some big plays in the secondary. But those two are going to split the reps, at least early on before Andersen makes his decision. But again, Andersen wants the mobile quarterback. He's got the mobile quarterback, but that mobile quarterback, Tanner McEvoy, has basically no experience. Then he's got the experienced quarterback who stands in mud, and it's Joel Stave, who's had shoulder injuries. I don't know that that's necessarily going to affect him. He's supposed to be very sound and ready to go, but he's made mistakes in the past. He's won big games, but relied on the running game, of course, at Wisconsin and the defense. So it's Stave, it's McEvoy. Would love to hear what you have to say about your selection, Wisconsin fans, to play for this football team. I think one thing to consider is that because of the lack of experience, the lack of talent, to be very blunt, the lack of talent, also, again, experience and production at the wide receiver position, this team needs to find playmakers in space. They've got it at running back with Gordon and Clement, but they also need to be able to create, they need to improvise, and they don't have the playmakers on the outside to do it. At least they haven't shown it as of yet. So they may need it at the quarterback position. So that may turn out to be Andersen's decision. It may come down to, I need somebody else who can create, and it's going to be Tanner McEvoy. He may make some mistakes in the passing game, but he can get outside and he can threaten the defense and threaten the edge. All right, Wisconsin fans, step up. Let's hear from you right now on the Badgers and wide receiver and quarterback in particular, right here on Mark Rogers TV.